Shayla did not have the typical signs and symptoms of autism when she was a baby, and as a result, we were actually denied treatment for that. So, who knows? Nice looking at mommy. Very nice looking at mommy. And you're gonna kiss mommy? Are you gonna say hi to the camera? Not really? Hi everyone, it's Annasha and Shayla. Welcome back to our channel. This is Shayla of Shayla's Voice. If you have not already met her, there she is. Do you want to say hi? No? If you're new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please meet Shayla. Nice to meet you. And if you're returning, welcome back. Thank you for being here and thank you for sticking around. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what I think are the top 5 traits, signs and symptoms that you see in babies and toddlers with autism. And we will be comparing these signs and symptoms to what we saw in Shayla as a baby and toddler growing up. So stick around and let's get into it. Before we continue on, if you haven't already done so, remember to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. When a new video gets uploaded, you will be one of the first people to know. All right, so let's get into this. So as you guys know, I always say no two kids with autism are the same. When you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism. This is a saying in the special needs autism community. No two kids are the same. So always remember that when you're watching anything when it comes to autism, when you're learning anything when it comes to autism, or when you're watching my videos. So some of you may already know that Shayla is now 9 years old, and Shayla was diagnosed with autism just shy of 3 years old. So 2.5 going on to 3, she was diagnosed with severe autism. Right now she's doing great. She's thriving. She's a big girl. She's growing into her own person. Her own little personality starts coming out. She's doing amazing. But we still have our day-to-day struggles with autism. So let's get into it. One of the first things that you would hear about a baby or toddler with autism is that there's limited to no eye contact, right? So kids with autism tend not to stare directly at you. They prefer to, they're in their own world. It's like they're locked in their own world, doing their own thing. So they will not stare at you. And if they do, they will do it for a second and then they will look away, right? With Shayla, Shayla has always had eye contact. She has great eye contact. She will look you dead in the eye. She will even stare you down, right? She has always had great eye contact, and that's something that a lot of even her service providers would mention, that Shayla has amazing eye contact, right? But that is one of the first things that you notice in kids with autism and babies with autism, is that they will not keep that stare. You know, with kids and babies, like, they're so inquisitive and they want to know everything, they want to see everything, so they're always looking around and taking everything in, right? But that's where our kids differ. They're locked into their own world, and they would prefer not to have that eye contact with you. But our baby, when she was growing up, nope, she was interested in everything. She was always in your face. Still today, she's always in your face. Yep, her eye contact was on point. It was always there. That leads me into the next point as to which is responding to their names when they're called. Shayla has always, you would call Shayla, she has an attitude, she has a personality on her, but she will respond to her name. She will almost always respond to her name, right? And ever since she was little, she's known her name, obviously, and you would call her, and she would turn, she would find you, she would look for you, she would respond to her name. But with kids with autism, a lot of our kids, they don't respond to their names, right? It's almost as if you have to be right in front of them to make that connection. But you would call them, and again, it's because I think they're locked into their own little world. They're just, their minds work differently, obviously, so they're doing their own thing. So responding to their names, I don't think it's that they don't know their names. I think it's just, again, the way they process, right? The way they process things. After all, I mean, if I'm right here with you, why are you calling my name? Come find me, right? I'm just joking, but yeah, they typically do not respond to their names, and that's one of the first things you would see with babies and toddlers with autism, when you call them. The lack of response to their names. Again, Shayla, we never had that concern with Shayla. We never had that issue with Shayla. As a matter of fact, we took Shayla in for an assessment. After we got our diagnosis with the neurologist, we went through another center in Toronto, which will remain nameless. And we took her in for an assessment, and that was based on they get assessed. She gets a I believe it was a developmental pediatrician that we went to see at the time at that place, and they would have just given a diagnosis as well in line with what the neurologist had done, and because based on their assessment, because Shayla responded to her name, because Shayla had the eye contact, and because Shayla followed instructions, they ended up saying no, she's not qualified for the services because she does not meet their criteria of what autism is. So I'm like, what? My child is nonverbal. At the time she had regressed, she was nonverbal. I'm like, she's nonverbal. How could she not meet the criteria? But because of that, we walked away with no treatment because my baby met all these milestones, which is weird, right? Because you say that these are the typical signs and symptoms of autism in babies and toddlers, and here you have Shayla. Although she's meeting them, there are other signs, and still you deny her treatment, right? I mean, it's weird, but no two kids with autism are the same. Remember that. No two kids are the same. But in this case, I guess we didn't because we didn't fall in these categories for autism, right? Another one that a lot of parents and professionals would say is that the lack of interaction from the babies and toddlers. So, babies and toddlers are so playful. They're super playful. But with babies and toddlers with autism, we don't see as much interaction, and even interaction with their caregivers, interaction with their parents. We don't see a lot of that in kids and babies with autism, which is obviously a concern. Seeing that babies, when they start with their personalities, when they start to grow their personalities, they're just so always bubbly and so over the top, right? With Shayla, again, that was not a concern. Shayla was around everybody. She loved being around people. She loved doing her things. When it came to people, she had that. She was fine there. But when it came to interacting with, say, toys and TV shows, and again, these kids growing up, they find stuff that they absolutely love, the colors on the TV shows, the music and everything. When it came to that, Sheila had absolutely no interest. She didn't like any toys. She didn't gravitate to, not that she didn't like it, I would say she didn't gravitate towards any toys in particular. Or she wouldn't keep any focus for any TV shows or any music or anything like that. When it came to people, definitely she had that. She always wanted to be around people, but when it came to objects, definitely not. We definitely saw that there was no interest there. With that, after we started ABA therapy, was when we started to notice gradual interest in toys and in TV shows and in music, and that's when we discovered that she absolutely loves music, right? And now Shayla would actually sit and focus on her shows. Like, she'd be so focused that you would call her 10 times and she wouldn't respond. Not that she's not responding to her name, but because she's focused on her show. Or she would give you a glance and then she'll turn right back to her show. When it comes to her music, she loves her music. She'll focus on her music. And she does have some toys in her room that she would gravitate to. Like, she'll always go towards these toys, especially the ones that light up and play music. She loves these things, right? But definitely when she was growing up, we struggled with that in regards to finding things that she liked, finding things to engage her that way when it comes to the material stuff, the objects, the toys, the music. But now we don't have a concern with that. So I would say this is the first one that I've mentioned so far out of the three that actually Shayla related to back when she was a baby or toddler growing up when we got our diagnosis with autism. So that would be the interaction. Again, with adults, with people, she was fine, but when it came to objects and toys, absolutely no interest there. The fourth thing that I would mention is the sounds, babbling, coos. Babies, obviously, babies are always going, they're babbling, they're cooing, they're making their sounds, they're making their little giggles and stuff like that. But with kids with autism, definitely we see a little bit less of that, if not none of that, when it comes to our babies and toddlers. Shayla, in comparison, Shayla had her sounds. She had her sounds. to the point where she started having her words, right? So that was a milestone that she did meet in regards to the cooing, the babbling, the interacting with sounds, and mimicking and copying. So she did all of that. She had all of that until around 18 months to 2 years when she started to regress. So early on she met those, but then there was the regression at 18 months to 2 years and onwards. Right. But right now, being 9 years old, she's extremely vocal, and although she may not copy everything that we do, when we copy her, we have amazing interaction because she will laugh and she'll find it funny that we're copying her, and she'll do the same thing over and over again so we can copy her. So when it comes to sounds and babbling and that kind of interaction vocally, definitely a huge sign of something's going on, that child not meeting that milestone. So definitely something that I would look into. But again, no two kids with autism are the same. Like Shayla had all of that, she met all of that, and then with her autism, it was regression. She eventually lost her sounds, lost her words, but now she's extremely vocal, extremely vocal. You can't get Shayla to stay quiet. Very vocal. So we have hope that her words will come back, because off and on you hear her words sporadically just come, and they are actually in the right context. So definitely something that we look forward to, just hearing a little voice again. And although sometimes we enjoy hearing a little voice and all her being vocal and excited about stuff and whatever, but Shayla is loud, and Shayla goes on and on and on and on and on. But it's just great to have it. But definitely something that to look out for is the lack of the vocals, the sounds, the babbling, the cooing, the eyeing. Definitely look out for that. The last point that I would touch on is the repetitive movements. So repetitive behaviors, repetitive movements. So for example, what I mean is the rocking or the hand flapping or different things that they do, the finger flicking and stuff like that. With Shayla, definitely 100% we saw all of these. Shayla started off with the rocking and the hand flapping. She never really lined things up when she played. As I mentioned earlier, she was actually not interested in playing with anything. So we never saw that. But the typical things that we saw were the hand flapping and the rocking. We definitely saw that in her. So definitely, and we saw that early on when she was baby toddler, growing into becoming her 9-year-old self. We definitely saw that. Sometimes we see a little bit of rocking. We don't see flapping. That's something that I've not seen for a long time. But sometimes I see a little bit of rocking, especially when she's in the car seat. She'll do the rocking. Sometimes I say she's just dancing because music's playing, but I think it's rocking. Yeah, so definitely that's something that we've seen in her. When she was a baby toddler, and that's something that's very common with in the autism community. We hear that a lot with the babies, the hand flapping, the rocking, repetitive movements and behaviors. So that one for sure is huge in the autism community when it comes to our kids and getting a diagnosis. That's something that your pediatrician, your doctor, whomever would ask about, and most likely will link it back to your autism diagnosis. So there you have it. What I think are the 5 typical signs and symptoms that you see in kids, in babies and toddlers with autism. That's what I hear about most. By no means am I a professional, but speaking with other parents in our community, that's what you hear most, as well as some professionals have brought it up in comparison to Shayla. So we had the eye contact, lack of eye contact. Shayla had great eye contact. We had the lack of sounds, the babbling, the cooing, the baby noises that they make. Shayla had a lot of that. Interacting with things around them, interacting with caregivers, interacting with toys. Shayla, although she interacted with people, with caregivers, she did not interact with any toys. She had no interest in anything. We have repetitive movements. So with Shayla, we did definitely notice repetitive movements when she was little. She had the hand wringing. She had the flapping, she had the rocking, and she had other things, walking on her tippy toes. So we definitely saw repetitive behaviors in her. and that's something that you see typically in any child with autism, repetitive behaviors. And last but not least, we see the lack of interaction when their names are called. So lack of responding to their names. So when you call a child, typically the child will look back, they will look who's calling them. But with our kiddos, because they're locked in their own world, they don't typically look around to see who's calling them or why they're needed. With Shayla, she's always responded to her name. She's not had a problem with that. She's a bit of a diva, and sometimes we'll give her some attitude, but she did respond to her name. So there you have it. And again, like I said, by no means am I any professional. This is just feedback based on what I've gone through and what I've heard other parents in our community have shared. Well, there you have it, my thoughts on the signs and symptoms and how Shayla compared to them. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen in. If this video is going to be beneficial to anybody, feel free to hit that share button, share it with the world, share it with whomever needs it. If you haven't already done so, remember to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. When a new video gets uploaded, you will be one of the first people to know. We enjoyed having you here with us again, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye.